The room smelled like white lilies and expensive cologne. That was the first thing I noticed. 300 people were staring at me. My parents were beaming, tears welling up in my mother's eyes. This was supposed to be the best day of my life. I was wearing $15,000 worth of silk and lace. I felt nothing but a cold, heavy calm. Ethan was standing across from me. He looked handsome. Perfect tuxedo, perfect smile. He squeezed my hand, a little too hard. That was his nervous tell. I squeezed back, but mine was a warning. The officiant finished the boilerplate stuff. Time for the vows. Ethan cleared his throat. I knew the script. We wrote it together. It was supposed to be about our future, about building a home, about partnership. He didn't read the script. May, he started. His voice was too loud, too confident. You are incredible. You are smart. You are successful. You gave me everything. I raised a perfect, sculpted eyebrow. Give him everything? He never missed an opportunity to remind me I was the senior engineer and he was the marketing intern who got fired 3 times. He took a deep, theatrical breath. But you didn't give me what I really needed. You gave me an accountant, a life plan. You didn't give me passion. A low murmur rippled through the first few rows. My dad's face went rigid. Ethan turned his head, just slightly, toward the maid of honor, Chloe. She was standing beside me in a terrible seafoam green dress. Her face was pale. She looked terrified, but also smug. Chloe gave me passion, Ethan declared, his voice ringing through the silent ballroom. He actually dropped my hand. He let it fall like it was dirt. I love Chloe. We are leaving together. This wedding is off. The silence in the room wasn't just quiet. It was a vacuum, a physical, crushing force. People started gasping. My mother clutched my father's arm. I watched Chloe. She was crying fake tears, putting her hands over her mouth. A classic victim performance. They thought they had destroyed me. They thought this was their triumphant exit. I looked at Ethan. He was waiting for the breakdown, waiting for the screaming, the crying, the humiliation, waiting for the public spectacle that would make him the martyr, the one who found real love. I did not scream. I did not cry. I smiled. It was a small, quiet, predatory smile. That's a breach of contract, Ethan, I said clearly. My voice was amplified by the microphone clipped to my bodice. It cut through the silence. He frowned. What are you talking about? It's over, May. Just take the loss. I pulled a small silver remote control from the bouquet I was holding. The remote was cold against my palm. I pressed the button. Behind the officiant, the giant satin curtain that masked the projector screen dropped. It revealed an 18-foot LED screen. The screen flashed the opening title sequence, property of May Wang, attorney-client privileged. The first sound that played was Ethan's voice, laughing. But let me back up. I met Ethan 6 years ago. I was already working at Omnitech. It was a startup that was exploding. I was the one writing the code that made the explosion happen. I was 22, fresh out of Berkeley, and making ridiculous money. I was focused, driven. I had no time for dating. Then I met Ethan. He was the opposite of me. He was smooth. He worked in PR for a sister company. He wore linen shirts and talked about feelings. He was handsome in that classic, all-American way. Blonde, tall, easy smile. My family loved him. They thought he was balanced. They thought I needed to slow down. I saw the red flags early. He had big ideas but terrible follow-through. He was always quitting his jobs because they didn't respect his vision. He was constantly low on rent. I didn't care about the money at first. I was practical. He made me feel soft, which was a novelty. He made me feel less like a machine. My family pushed the marriage idea hard. My mother wanted grandchildren. My father wanted me to be settled. I wasn't thrilled, but I was busy. I figured a marriage would simplify my life, not complicate it. Ethan was easy to live with most of the time. Then came Chloe, my best friend since high school. We grew up across the street from each other. Chloe was always running behind me. I was class valedictorian. She was third runner-up. I got into the best engineering school. She went to the local college. I landed the big job. She bounced between retail and office assistant gigs. I didn't think she was jealous. I thought she was just struggling. I was supportive. I bought her clothes. I helped her move. I even hired her to be my personal assistant for a few months when she was broke. When Ethan and I got engaged, Chloe immediately inserted herself into the planning. She insisted on being the maid of honor. I was fine with it. It was a massive wedding. We needed the help. I paid for everything. Every vendor, every linen, every single thing. Ethan insisted on contributing, but his contributions were always maxing out my joint credit card, which I had to pay off. That was the moment I became ruthless. This wasn't romance. This was a business transaction with a ring. That's why the prenup was so crucial. Ethan fought me on it for months. He said it meant I didn't trust him. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "It means I'm protecting the capital I earned." My lawyer was a dragon. We included a clause that was airtight. The party filing for divorce or initiating the public dissolution of the marriage will pay the other party a penalty of $3 million USD. We structured it so initiating a public infidelity scandal counted as initiating dissolution. Ethan, needing access to my trust funds for his latest startup idea, eventually signed. He thought I would be the one to mess up. He thought I was too guarded. He was wrong. I never saw the betrayal coming from Chloe. Not really. I saw the signs, but I rationalized them. She and Ethan started spending too much time together. Wedding planning, they insisted. Late-night texts, private jokes. I blamed the stress. I thought I was paranoid, the overworked engineer who couldn't just relax. I was wrong about that too. The first real clue was stupidly simple. It was 2 weeks before the wedding. I was packing Ethan's gym bag for a supposed bachelor weekend trip. I reached inside the duffel to check for his passport, just a habit, and my hand closed around something hard. It was an airline ticket folder. It wasn't a cheap e-ticket printout. It was actual cardstock from a high-end travel agent. The itinerary wasn't for his boy's trip to Vegas. The destination was Barbados. The departure date was the day after our wedding. The return date was 2 weeks later. The worst part, there were 2 names on the ticket, Ethan Miller and C. Davis. Chloe's name was Chloe Davies. My stomach dropped like a stone, not out of heartbreak, but out of cold, clear fury. This wasn't just cheating. This was a calculated plot. They were going to use my money, my wedding, and my humiliation to fund their tropical getaway. I shoved the folder deep into the bottom of the bag. I zipped it up. I said nothing. I let him leave for his Vegas trip without a word. My brain shifted instantly from fiancé to chief security officer. I was in control now. I was May Wang, the engineer who specialized in digital forensics and systemic risk assessment. I started digging. I didn't hack his phone. That was messy. I was smarter. I had set up his home Wi-Fi network. I had access to the router logs. I could track every device that connected when I was at work. I cross-referenced the log times with Chloe's work schedule. The results were immediate and damning. Chloe's phone was present at my apartment almost every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon for the last 4 months. The same days I had mandatory late meetings with our Hong Kong office. I needed physical proof for the prenup clause. Digital logs alone wouldn't win $3 million. I needed more than reasonable doubt. I needed irrefutable proof of intent to publicly dissolve the marriage due to infidelity. I called my lawyer, Sarah, first thing the next morning. I didn't tell her the details. I just said I needed to execute a surveillance plan immediately. Sarah was a machine. She put me in touch with a private investigator named Frank. Frank was a heavyset guy who looked like a grumpy accountant. He was perfect. I gave him a strict, short list. Get proof of the affair. Focus on the week before the wedding. Use high-quality video and timestamps. I paid him half the fee in cash, up front. He delivered the goods in 72 hours. A flash drive discreetly slipped under my office door. The video showed Ethan and Chloe exiting a cheap motel near the airport. They were kissing. They were holding hands. Ethan was laughing that loud, confident laugh. I sat in my apartment, the sound of the video muted, and watched them. My emotion was pure, clean calculation. This was a gift. This was the $3 million ticket. I was going to ruin their triumphant exit. The breaking point wasn't the video. It was realizing how far they planned to go. The morning of the wedding rehearsal dinner, I checked the master wedding itinerary. Chloe had meticulously organized every element. It was perfect, almost too perfect. Then I saw a last-minute addition in red ink, unscheduled remarks, 10 minutes, immediately after vows. Ethan was supposed to give a 3-minute toast to my parents. 10 minutes of unscheduled remarks could only mean one thing. They weren't just going to quietly run away. They were going to make a scene. They were going to announce their love. They were going to humiliate me in front of all my professional contacts and my entire conservative family. They wanted the spectacle. I closed the binder. The rage finally hit me, but it was cold, internal. It wasn't the heat that makes you throw things. It was the absolute zero that freezes your enemies solid. I wasn't just defending my money anymore. I was defending my dignity. I called Sarah again. "We are not stopping the wedding," I told her. Sarah, who has dealt with the messiest divorces in Silicon Valley, paused. "May, are you serious? We can get an injunction. We can serve him now." "No," I said. "He needs to initiate the dissolution publicly. The contract requires it." "We wait until he delivers his 10-minute speech. That is the public breach." I explained my plan. Sarah started laughing. A deep, raspy sound. "May, you are terrifying. I love it. We will have the suit finalized, notarized, and physically served the moment the video starts playing. That makes the public spectacle his fault, not yours." The next 48 hours were a blur of legal preparation and technological setup. I had paid for a top-tier media production crew for the wedding. I quietly called the lead tech, giving him new instructions. I told him the projection system needed an emergency backup video loop that would run if the main presentation failed. I gave him the USB drive with the PI's video. I told him the trigger was the small silver remote control I would be carrying. I paid him $5,000 in cash, no questions asked. He agreed immediately. Cash talks. I had to endure the rehearsal dinner. I had to smile while Chloe gave a sickly sweet speech about our lifelong friendship. She hugged me, whispering, "I'm so happy for you, May." I felt bile rise in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I gave a toast back. I looked straight at Ethan. "To our new beginning," I said, lifting the champagne flute. "May it be exactly what we deserve." They toasted with me. They didn't even flinch. They were already celebrating their future, fended by my past. But the future was a very small room, and they had just locked themselves inside. The day of the wedding arrived. I was calm, almost robotic. I let my mother fuss over my hair. I let Chloe fix my dress. I was playing a role, the clueless happy bride. My plan was simple and three-pronged: financial, legal, and public. 1. The financial lock. Hours before the ceremony, I logged into every single joint account. I moved every penny of my separate property, every investment, and every piece of stock that could be traced back to my premarital earnings into a new, single trust account controlled solely by Sarah, my lawyer. I left exactly enough in the joint checking account to cover the cost of the wedding, my cost. Ethan's credit cards, which he had maxed out, were still linked to the trust, which was now empty. He would soon face the immediate consequences of his spending habits. 2. The legal hammer. The lawsuit was ready. It was a 40-page document, but the key was the first page, a declaration of his public breach of the prenuptial agreement's infidelity clause, demanding the $3 million penalty plus legal fees. We had hired a discreet private process server who was posing as one of the catering staff. His job was simple: wait for the screen to drop, then deliver the envelope. 3. The public execution. This was the fun part. The video was a 3-minute montage. It started with the text, "Meet Ethan and Chloe's passionate wedding gift to me." It then cut to the surveillance footage, the motel parking lot, the kisses, the hand-holding. I included a quick screenshot of the Barbados airline tickets with their names highlighted. The final frame was a simple text overlay. This infidelity constitutes a breach of contract. $3 million due immediately. I also had a backup plan for Chloe. She worked for a small nonprofit that was partially funded by my father's foundation. My father, who was sitting rigid in the front row, despised public dishonesty. The moment the video played, my father's assistant had a pre-written email scheduled to send to the nonprofit's board of directors, detailing Chloe's actions and confirming the immediate withdrawal of all foundation funding. I walked down the aisle. I looked at Ethan. He was grinning like he had already won. He thought he was about to deliver the knockout blow. I felt a weight of the silver remote control hidden in my bouquet of lilies. It was a strange comfort. It wasn't a wedding. It was a controlled detonation. I finally reached the altar. I stood next to Chloe, who smelled faintly of her grandmother's perfume, a detail I found oddly sad. Then I looked at Ethan. He was about to speak. The final countdown had begun. Ethan started his speech exactly as planned, twisting the knife slowly. He built up the tension. He talked about the perfect life I wanted to build. He talked about my ambition. He talked about my lack of soul. Then he got to the betrayal. I need something real, something messy, something human, he said, turning to Chloe, and I found it right here. Chloe, I love you. We belong together. The gasps were deafening. My mother actually started sobbing, grabbing a napkin. My father's jaw was a granite block. Chloe started her performance. I'm so sorry, May, she whispered, leaning over and trying to take my hand. It just happened. We couldn't fight it. This was the perfect moment. I pulled my hand away from her. I looked directly at the crowd. Chloe, you planned the wedding. I planned the consequences. I said loud and clear. I pressed the remote control button. The heavy satin curtain fell with a whoosh. The massive LED screen flared to life. The music was a satirical, cheesy 80s ballad. The title flashed. Meet Ethan and Chloe's passionate wedding gift to me. The silence returned, but this time it was laced with dread. Ethan stared at the screen, his mouth literally hanging open. His smug look melted into horrified disbelief. He tried to speak, but the motel footage started playing. The timestamp was 2 days ago. It was undeniable. May, what is this? He shouted, trying to grab the remote. I stepped back, keeping the microphone close. Evidence, Ethan, for your breach of the prenuptial agreement. The room was in chaos. People were standing up. My aunt fainted. Chloe was screaming, "Turn it off! Turn it off!" A man in a black serving uniform calmly walked up to Ethan. He was holding a large manila envelope. Mr. Ethan Miller, the server said in a flat monotone, you have been served. This is the official complaint for breach of contract, case number 25-CV-1033. Ethan grabbed the envelope. He crumpled it. He looked like a cornered animal. The video finished with the $3 million text. My father, who had been silent, stood up. He pointed at Ethan. You, despicable fraud, he roared. Chloe tried to make a run for it. She bolted toward the side door, but my 2 hired security guards, who were pretending to be ushers, blocked the exit. Chloe, Davies, one of them said, holding up a phone. Your employment at the Peterson nonprofit has been terminated. The foundation funds have been withdrawn. Please collect your belongings on Tuesday. I looked at Ethan one last time. He was gray. He realized the trap was locked. I removed the microphone, walked past Chloe, and looked at my parents. Let's go, Mom. Dad, the honeymoon suite is paid for. I'm taking you 2 instead. I didn't stay to see the police arrive, which they did eventually, thanks to the commotion. I didn't see the public shaming or the catering staff dismantling the expensive dessert bar. I didn't need to. The confrontation was the closure. My parents and I walked out of the banquet hall. I got into the Blacktown car Ethan had reserved for our romantic getaway. My dad was quiet, just holding my mother's hand. May, my mother finally whispered, tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling now. I am so proud of you. That was terrifyingly smart. We didn't go home. We drove straight to the airport. I had my passport ready. The tickets were already booked. I was taking my parents on the trip I had originally planned. 3 weeks in Italy, hitting all the private vineyards I had seen the black flash of my family, and my father always wanted to see. The tickets Ethan bought for Barbados, I canceled them, keeping the refund as part of the initial property recovery. The fallout was fast and brutal for them. Ethan's professional life evaporated. He was in marketing, a field that requires trust and a clean reputation. The video went viral immediately. The humiliation was total. Every single job he applied for, he was rejected. The $3 million lawsuit was non-negotiable. He had signed the prenup. Sarah was ruthless. Ethan had no assets. So we went after the small trust fund his grandmother had left him. We won the $3 million settlement. Chloe was fired from every subsequent job she tried to get. When she tried to blame me for ruining her life, I leaked the police report showing she attempted to steal a piece of jewelry from the abandoned reception hall. She vanished from the city. I never saw her again. I walked away debt-free, $3 million richer, and with a clean, clear lesson learned. Always protect your assets with documentation. I am 30 now. I work remotely from my beach house in Maui. I have a new partner. He's a data scientist. We share a passion for obscure programming languages and complete financial transparency. We are not getting married anytime soon. If we ever do, the prenup will be 100 pages long, and it will be written by 2 separate law firms. Sometimes people ask me if the pain was worth the money. It wasn't about the money. It was about controlling the narrative. They wanted to write my ending as a heartbroken victim. I wrote my ending as the ruthless victor. The $3 million was just the penalty for their poor planning.